Good morning, good morning, good morning. You wouldn't believe how many times I've tried to make this one video today and how often I've been bombarded with calls, emails, things of that nature. I just got an interview set up. I just got an appointment for an inspection at one of my properties set up for this week. I just have so much cash being delivered to me today. I'm giving you a lot of information, but that's just a sneak peek into the life of an investor, entrepreneur, when you have, tens of thousands being delivered on any given day in order to essentially just continue operations. But today we're going to talk about something on a more simpler scale, which is what 1/3 of Americans do in order to be a millionaire today. You see, before I can even shower or do anything today, the first thing I had to do was get my backyard ready for the summer. I'm gonna have an amazing barbecue. But yeah, I wanted to talk about what 1/3 of Americans do in order to achieve some semblance of financial freedom. So I've talked about how Social Security is supposed to disappear in 2032, and I will talk about that in a later video. But essentially, the government has came out and stated that the 401k is not supposed to be your only source for retirement. So what are they saying when they say it's not supposed to be your only source of retirement? What they're saying is you should not rely on your 401k solely in order to retire late in your later years. And although I'm in real estate, I would never advise someone for your biggest asset to ever be your property. What do I mean by that? You see, if you read Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you read any books like that, they would tell you an asset is something that puts money in your pocket and not something that takes money out of it. And so when you think about that, what does that tell you? That tells you that although a home may be cheaper than renting, depending on the area that you live, just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's an asset. All that means is that you're paying less on a liability. It doesn't put money in your pocket, according to Robert Kiyosaki. It takes money out of it, right? So if you had a cheap home to live in, if it's paid off and you no longer have a mortgage or rent to pay, and now you are growing your 401k exponentially with the extra income that you have, with the extra money that you are receiving, that's no longer going towards your mortgage, but going towards your retirement. Now you can say, okay, I don't have any bills, and all I have is an asset that is growing each and every single year. You see, a lot of people are growing their 401k, but they're not building wealth within their home. They're not building equity within their home. And so they are going to end up still needing to pay rent, still needing to pay a mortgage in order to survive, right? That does not get included in financial freedom. That does not get included in the living expenses. And even when you own a home, you got to worry about repairs, you got to worry about roofs, you got to worry about foundation, you got to worry about a lot of things, right? So in order to make the best of your situation, you first need to understand, what are you going to need to retire? How much money will you need to retire? How are you going to get there? Is your 401k going to be good enough? Well, here's the thing. A single person in America today, in order to retire, will need about $3.2 million. $3.2 million. If you own a home in Kentucky or Florida, I'm mixing it up. If you own a home in like Kentucky or California, your property taxes will never increase. So you can budget for a lifestyle where your property taxes don't increase. If you live in a place like Florida, you don't have any state tax. You're able to save more money in that regard. And so depending on where you live, there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of disadvantages to what you may be able to do. And it's important to understand and identify, where do you want to live? Where do you believe that you will achieve the most? You see, I live in Columbus, Ohio now. I used to live in New York, and I still frequent New York often. And, a lot of the jobs offers that I get are typically for upstate New York, like Buffalo or Albany, New York. And then, of course, Columbus, Ohio, where I reside. And so in the management and the logistics field, I typically see a lot of opportunities for me in these areas. So not only do I have the opportunity to work if I so choose, but I also have the opportunity to invest, grow, it being a cheaper market. Upstate New York, far cheaper than New York or Florida or California. And then Ohio, far cheaper than those same places that I listed earlier. So with that being said, you want to understand that your 401k should not be your only source of retirement. Maybe you're going to have tenants paying you rent for the rest of your life. And we all know rent typically moves up a lot higher and faster than wages do. And so if you want to pay off a property and then you're receiving rent, you're most likely going to be able to sustain yourself off of that. And yes, tenants do not pay all the time. And so you want to ensure that you're in a great financial space. You have great savings and great resources available to you, so that you are not concerned with someone's non-payment, and you're in a state where it's easy to get a non-paying tenant out. Now, I haven't dealt with any non-payments. I've been blessed. I've been lucky in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years of real estate investing for myself. I haven't had any issues. But essentially, 1/3 of Americans are millionaires through their 401k and their 401k alone. You see, these Americans had been investing in their 401k the majority of their lives. Whether they were frugal or not, whether they decided to get into a whole bunch of debt or not, that didn't really matter. What matters is the fact that they set some money aside, and they, regardless of whatever they would do, couldn't touch their 401k, right? It was very inaccessible to them. Some people didn't even know they had a 401k, right? Some people, their employer set that up for them, and they just worked at the same employer for several years, and then voila, they were blessed to be able to keep that job, and now they're millionaires. 1.2 million, 5 million. Dave Ramsey considers a millionaire someone with a paid off home and maybe the additional profits in a 401k or a different asset. So for example, if you have a $300,000 home that's paid off and you have $710,000 in your 401k, Dave Ramsey would consider you a millionaire. I don't look at home equity that you can't use, you can't tangibly touch, as money in considering your millionaire wealth or structure. But if it's your primary residence, I wouldn't consider that a part of that equity that you can actually tap into. But if it's like a rental property or something like that, then I would consider that in terms of something that you can say is a asset that you use in order to build wealth. So for example, if I have a $500,000 house, but I only have $200,000 in rental properties, I would consider the $200,000 as a part of my net worth. Obviously, others would consider both, which is okay. Everybody's different in terms of what they consider. And I would say nobody's wrong. The right terminology is that any asset you have is an asset towards your wealth. But again, if you're using the Robert Kiyosaki terminology, your home is not an asset, and therefore I wouldn't consider it in terms of the financial net worth and wealth of a person. With that being said, I know a lot of people who invest in their 401ks. I know a lot of people who are striving for a moderate lifestyle, a lifestyle of comfortability. And what I want to say to you is you will be able to retire, but I don't believe the 401k will be a comfortable retirement. It will be one of hardship, but not as hard as those who don't invest in their 401k. If you want more insight on what you can do in order to be better prepared for your future, your financial independence, then I will go over some alternative options that is not necessarily real estate involved, but it will allow you to understand that, again, $1 million, $1.5 million is not enough for you to retire. You're going to need about 3.6 to 3.9 million. And so there's a big gap. There's a big disparity in what you'll be able to afford. And we need to figure out where we're going to get that other 2 million from in order for you to retire comfortably. All right, so if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You know I post every single day at 8 a.m. daily, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.